need to know exactly how you're going to walk into each day, and it's really important. And that's what I'm going to give everyone who takes this course. Is they're going to really feel strong, moment to moment, and not the kind of strength where it's like you're gritting your teeth, trying to survive it. You'll have an effortless sense of fluidity and grace moving from hour to hour, day to day through the holiday season. You'll be loving what you are consuming. You'll be feeling so wonderful that you won't want to shift that by being tempted to do something or have something that wouldn't support that. You're going to have distinct tools to get to also to just to really enjoy this holiday period. Because on the one hand, yes, family can be hectic, and the gift giving can be mind bending, and all of the different events that seem to pile up can be draining. And yet at the same time, family can be wonderful, and gift giving can be joyous. And these back-to-back events, if they're, and you might want to just, think a little bit more about which ones are necessities and which ones aren't, but they can actually be energizing when approached from the right perspective, or from a perspective that enables you to be able to make them so. You have your plan on paper, and that's the important place to start. You know exactly how you're going to, you know what your mindset is going to be, you know where your heart's going to be, and we need to align that first, and that's what we'll be doing in this course. We'll be aligning your heart and your mind and your being with the highest spirit, and you'll be strong because of that, and you'll be joyous because of that, and you'll be inspired, and you'll be fun because of that. And then when you're confronted with something that's maybe takes you by surprise in any way, you will be able to stay in that center while you digest whatever it is it's you've been confronted with. And it's so important, because if we're not ever at the helm, if we're not always in that aligned center with our highest spirit guide, our highest spirit being, then it's just too easy for us to fall apart, and we don't want to fall apart. It doesn't maybe sound like a big deal to have a cry or a little crumble or a little apple crumble, but if it's not done in a safe space where you can actually process what you've been exposed to, what the surprise was, what's made you tearful, why the indulgence calls, then it will only become a dangerous whirlpool where you get sucked under into a space that you never intended to become. We don't want to. We want to learn how, and this is what I'll be teaching people to learn how to stay in that alignment regardless of circumstances, and to very sure-footedly and knowledgeably navigate tricky waters and tricky moments. It's so important. And then what happens is you're able to then be who you really are in the world, as opposed to where those people in this case over the holidays, it's usually the people closest to you that know you the best. They've known you for so many years, that know exactly how to push your buttons. It's time for you not to be that kid that you were when those buttons were all established. It's time for you now to be that adult, and to be sovereign is to be mature. To be an adult properly is to be mature. So it's all synonymous. Those terms are all synonymous: adult, mature, sovereign, because there's a time for being a child, and that time has passed. Like now you're going to be celebrating the holidays as a grown-up, and whether you're 21 or 81, you may still be struggling with what it means to be a grown-up in those particular situations. So the holidays can be very challenging, but again, they can provide such a huge opportunity. When we become childlike, we basically don't have boundaries, and so there are wonderful aspects of being a child, because you're so open and you're so receptive and you're so fluid, you're so much in the flow. But to have all that flow and fluidity without the boundaries makes you vulnerable, and can make one then have unexpected reactions, emotional reactions, fear, anger, tearfulness, excessive sadness. It all becomes this kind of chaos of emotions, and that's what happens when children are put in vulnerable positions, and those vulnerable positions expose them to things that aren't good for them. So that's when we say, like, acting like a child. A healthy child who's exposed to the right things typically doesn't have tantrums to act up and do those things. It's when they're exposed to too many confusing things. So as adults, unless we have those boundaries in place and we know how to sort of, and we're truly self-actualized and we're holding center of our own lives, we're vulnerable just like a child to those external circumstances that can be negative influences on us. Everyone's different. Everyone's life experience is different, and I never paint across the board with the same brush. It's really important to always acknowledge that lifestyle, age, gender, time of life, stage of life, inclinations, goals, all of these things factor in. So, Susie over here has these goals and Billy over here has these goals. So maybe Billy's going to be able to have some of these things because his goals are just, he's quite overweight and he's struggles with overeating a bit. So if we can just get him to do half of what he would normally do, we're in good shape. But Susie's training for a triathlon, and she was battling some chronic diseases, and she really doesn't have room in her life. Maybe she's been diagnosed with candida, and there's no room for her to play around with some of these things. So for her, she's going to know exactly what the parameters are, what her protocol is for her dietetics the whole year, and she must maintain those during the holidays when it's harder to do so. So it really depends from person to person, but I will help you determine what those boundaries should look like based on your situation, based on your makeup and your goals and your lifestyle and your flexibility, your stage of life, all of these things. And once you know what that is, then the principles will apply the same way. It will be, okay, well, these are my boundaries. I must stay within my boundaries. I need to support those boundaries by having the right attitude, maintaining that attitude, maintaining my rituals, and ensuring that I do the things that need to be done to release the old waste matter in my body, release the old patterns, release the old programs, and ensure that it's light that enters those empty spaces now. So though the principles are the same across the board, but the application of them will vary from person to person based on their goals and lifestyle. We're here for our souls to grow. Our soul is made up of spirit. Spirit is that which animates everything that we see that animates, whether it's a tree or a flower or a bumblebee or a hummingbird or the cells in our body. It's all animated by spirit. And spirit it does not want to be suppressed anymore. And souls are being called now to remove all the obstruction from their spirit. And the souls that can do that are going to move into 2020, into this new beautiful year, the whole new lease on what it means to be human and what it means to embody, to embody life, to be a spirit being in a body. And if that leap isn't taken, and if that concept isn't understood, then those who don't understand and who haven't come to it are going to be in a state of suffering. And it's not, the suffering isn't because they've been bad. The suffering is just because that's the natural result of clogging the spirit. And the spirit gets very frustrated. I always tell people, you've got to give your spirit a reason to stay. You have to create the conditions for it to want to stay. Otherwise, it's going to be suppressed and angry. Then there's going to be this dysfunctional expression. The cells, the tissues, the organs are all going to express dysfunctionally. That's why we have autoimmune diseases. And the person is going to emotionally feel and act dysfunctionally as well, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, energetically, on all these levels. So basically, we've always had the opportunity to embody spirit fully and not share the real estate of our body, our physical avatar, I like to call it. I'll explain that more in the course, with things that would corrupt it, break it down, block its ability to flow. So that's always been an option. And some people, very small few, dedicate their lives to that so that their spirit can fully express. But with this big awakening right now, it comes a huge opportunity for so many people to be able to do that at once. And the only reason not to would be, well, there are a few reasons. It would be not knowing the options. So I'm here to educate, and that's why I'm doing this. I really want to educate people so they know that they can do this and how to do it. Because if you're approaching um, sort of cleansing diet, let's say, with the objective to lose weight and to prevent disease or maybe remediate disease, those are all, perfectly acceptable reasons. But those reasons, that motivation, isn't going to enable you to be a truly free being. It's not going to enable you to become, to live your full potential. It's just going to make things a little bit better. And so I want people to understand what their full potential is and how to reach that. And because there's such a huge wave of people waking up and becoming receptive to this, and becoming receptive, let's say, to the fact that the old ways we've been taught to live, the sort of dark ages of health and wellness, and the dark ages of how really what makes a life, that it's living indoors and being suppressed, doing what society tells you, working in cubicles, working in offices for 50 years, and all of these things. People are waking up to that. They're getting that, and they want to go, spend their time at yoga retreats, and they love the idea of the green juice, and so many of these things. Even colonics now speak to people, and it's wonderful, and infrared saunas, and people get it. But I want to help those people who are getting it to get the even bigger picture and embody the even bigger potential.